Hey, everybody. And I know I look a little different. And I know it's also not Sunday, but with the holidays, we got Christmas stuff going on tomorrow. So I had to move my live stream to today. Let's see, who do we got watching so far? Looks like we got a couple in here. No one in chat yet, though. Hey, there's John Warren. How are you doing, John Warren? Merry Christmas to you and yours as well. Lakeside Ranch. How are you doing, Doug? Merry Christmas to you, Lakeside Ranch, and Barry Hanson. Merry Christmas to you as well. And, you know, I just realized, J80, I don't speak Spanish, but hey, how are you doing tonight? Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you, Wayne Tharp. I just realized something, too, just now. This will be my last live stream for the year. Tommy Vincent, how are you doing? And Merry Christmas to you as well. So, yeah, this will be Lake M. Hey, what's up? Your content has helped me out a lot. Hey, I appreciate the feedback on that, Lake M. How are you doing today? And I'm glad it's helped. And I've had several people tell me that them watching my videos has helped, either get reacclimated with crane stuff or actually helped with crane stuff. So MSL logging. Hey, Jimmy, you're wearing my hat I've got on. Actually, this one's my hat. You may have one similar. But how are you doing, MSL logging? And Merry Christmas to you and your families. But I've had several people tell me that my videos have helped them out, and I love that. That's great feedback, and really a lot of why I do this. But the biggest reason why I do this is I want people to be more aware of the trades. Initially, it started off as, hey, let's make some videos and have some fun with it. And then as things have progressed, I'm going to use it as an outlet to bring awareness to the trades. And also, before we get too far into this, I told Brandon and Jason that since I was rescheduling my live stream to earlier in the day, I would let everybody know that tonight at 7 p.m. Central, you can watch the Brandon and Jason show, or I think it's the Jason and Brandon show, one or the other, but it will be on either Jason Works a Lot's channel or Elite Earthworks LLC. So if you're not subscribed to them, go check their channels out, subscribe to both of them, and then watch that tonight. A lot of people have said that it's much better than sitting around watching Saturday Night Live. So you guys owe it to yourselves to go check that out tonight at 7 p.m. Central. So MSL Logging said, sitting at Bristol Motor Speedway, fixing, look at the Bristol lights. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Dalton Feeks, love the last video. I hope the crane has a Jake brake. Dalton Feeks, actually, the crane does have a Jake brake. The Tadano ATF 180 does have a Jake brake, and it's also got an intarder built into it. So it's got 5 levels of intarding built into the drivetrain. Caleb Douglas, hey man, found you on the Hope on JDMS. Good work. Well, thank you. And thanks for coming over and subscribing and checking us out. And that Hope for the Holidays thing, if you guys, I know a lot of you guys aren't in the Kansas City area, but you can tune into 98.9 The Rock via the internet and listen to some of that stuff, or you can go to their website and listen to some of the stories. And man, if it doesn't pull at your heartstrings, I don't know what would. I've listened to some of those stories that actually made tears run down my cheeks. I mean, it's just, it reminds me of how fortunate I am, and puts in perspective some of the stuff I take for granted. So Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures. How are you doing, Alex? And I checked your channel out. I saw that you picked up a couple subscribers, so that's good news. John Warren says, I think Jason and Brandon are doing with Wade. So they're going to be on Wade's channel, I'm guessing. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they're going to be on Logger Wade. John Warren knows more about than I do. Josh Hummer, how are you doing, Josh Hummer? Who designed your logo? And hey, Jimmy. My sister-in-law that lives in Texas actually designed my logo. She's a graphics artist or graphics designer and has worked for several big companies, but I kind of sketched up an idea and sent it to my brother, and my sister sat down and designed my logo. And then I animated it on my editing software, and that's what I use for my intro on my videos. Ryan Chapman, how are you doing? Says I subscribed to Alex last night after I watched your trucking video. And in that trucking video, I pretty much did that video for Alex because it had a lot of audio in it. And for those that don't know, and I'm sure pretty much everybody does at this point, but Alex Williamson is, as far as I know, my only blind subscriber. So he listens to all my content. And so that video, when I was going through my footage and trying to decide what to put up next, and I listened to that clip, I'm like, that is a perfect video for Alex because it is a lot of audio in it. Lawn Commander, I am early. I am a day and what time is it? 4 o'clock. I'm a day and 2 hours early. Lakeside Ranch Winter Rock Channel Online did just what you said and sent a donation. Care of 2,000. Great people. Hey, thanks for doing that, Doug. That's awesome. And how are you doing tonight, Lawn Commander? And Merry Christmas to you and your family. And Merry Christmas to everybody that I haven't gotten to anyway. Lake MS, how did you get your CDL Class A? What truck did you test in? I got it through our local union. Our training site has trucks and trailers for us to use. But I tested in a, what was that? Man, it's been quite a while ago. I don't remember what it was. Had a 9-speed in it and a 48-foot trailer. But I don't remember the truck. I don't know. It was a semi with air brakes. So, also, before we get way deep into this, I have some exciting news, but I can't let it all out. But I can clue you guys in on some stuff that I'm working on. J80, give a shout out. What is your local? My local is International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 101. So we are most of Missouri and all of Kansas is our local. But let him tell us. Okay, so here's the exciting news. And like I said, I can't divulge everything. But allegedly, there is a second channel in the works that my brother and I will be partnered up on. Lakeside Ranch, Local 475 retired. And David, I'll get to the brief history of our company here in a second, but thanks for tuning in. And you've been very involved in comments, and I love it. And I apologize I haven't been able to respond to all of your comments. As the channels progress, it gets much more difficult to keep up with everybody. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Allegedly, there's a second channel in the works. It may or may not involve a crane, and it may or may not involve copious amounts of destruction. So I'll probably leave it at that. Maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything else I can add to that without giving away what we're doing. I'm pretty certain if you guys like my channel for the content and the safety aspect of what I do, you guys will love what we're going to do on the other end of the spectrum, because I assure you it's going to be entertaining. It should be a lot of comedic and entertainment factor to it. So, yeah, there's that. Okay, so David wants to know a brief history of our company. Our company was founded by one individual. Actually, 2019, I think it'll be 50 years that we've been in business. So start off as a small construction company, basically almost a one-man operation, maybe a few other people. It's been family owned ever since. It has never changed hands. Now we are on our second generation owner. The way we got into the crane business is they actually rented a crane and damaged it and ended up having to buy it. And so that's how they got into the crane side of it. And we have continually grown over the last 50 years. So, Dalton Feeks, I know you're going to pick up a car with a crane and drop it from 200 feet in the air with full jib. I am not going to be picking up a car 200 feet and dropping it. So I can assure you that that's not going to happen. There's a couple reasons why. If you pick up a car with full jib and 200 feet of boom and then you drop it, just the act of taking that much deflection out of the crane could cause some damage to a crane that size. And then also, as a car's falling through the air from 200 feet, it's not a perfect science of where it's going to land. So we won't be dropping stuff from 200 feet. Lakeside Ranch 2000 crane, great teaser. Jimmy, by the way, your new video is up now for after the show tonight. All right, the new video is just driving a truck. Like I said earlier, that was pretty much handpicked and edited for Alex. So what else do we have coming up? I think I've got some more night work coming up, but I don't know that I'm going to do a whole lot of footage with it. The 2 night videos that I put up, they did okay, but it's really hard to see in it. And if you do one night video, I mean, it's one is the same. So I probably won't do too much with that, but we'll see. And then there's also a potential that we may have to go into a rock quarry and take out some 100,000-pound machinery and whatnot. So if we do that, I'll get some video in there. But the rock quarry isn't. They haven't completely decided the route they're going to go with removing their equipment. They may just use big excavators or something. So who knows? I did edit a video today. It's another. Well, I'd say Cummins repair, but it's not necessarily a Cummins repair as much as it is like a Dodge or a Ram repair. 2013, 14, and I guess some of the 2015 Dodge Rams use dual radiators, and they have a plastic Y pipe in the upper radiator hose, and they're prone to leaking. And so I bought a kit to replace that, and I edited that video today. So there'll be another spinning wrenches video coming your way here pretty quick, maybe as fast as tomorrow. Harold, I'm going to say Zavacos, maybe. Merry Christmas to you and your family as well. Lawn Commander, been watching Let's Dig 18, good old North Carolina boy. Yeah, and that video where Jason went down and visited Chris was pretty funny. Jason works a lot as a hoot. One of these days, I'm going to get him to my house, even if we have to hog time, drag him over here. But I like crumb slinging videos. Trying to think what else I got. I've got all kinds of footage that I've just been saving. As the weather gets bad, then crane business kind of slows down a little bit. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures asks, I wonder if there are any round concrete balls involved with your new channel. There will not be any round concrete balls involved with the new channel. John 69, go pick him up with the crane. Jason Works a Lot is a long ways away. That would be very expensive to go pick him up with the crane. Mark Mortensen, how are you doing? Yeah, Jason, he's a good dude. I've talked to him on the phone quite a bit. We text a lot. And Jason and Brandon, and, there's a lot of, actually, I don't think I can say a bad thing about anybody that I have interacted with on YouTube, other than a few trolls here and there that I've had to block, but for the most part, everybody is awesome. Chris DeBow, how are you doing, Chris? Brandon, hey Jimmy, hey Brandon, how are you? Lead is saying he'll be coming to my shop. Where's your shop at, J80? If you're nearby, I'll make a trip. Excited Ranch, new video for my channel has more RC stuff in it for you to enjoy. Jimmy, available now. I will check that out as soon as this stream's over, Lakeside Ranch. I love RC stuff. I got involved in RC when I was in, I think, 5th grade, and I've still got some of my old RC cars. If you guys want to watch me resurrect one on a crane channel, I guess I can show you guys one of my old RC cars. I'll get it back on the road again. West Coast Logging, how are you doing, West Coast Logging? Oh, J80's in Lancaster, Ohio. That's a long ways away. Yeah, Brandon says, Let's Dig video was great for Jason's channel. Happy for Jason. It was. I mean, he gained 600 subscribers like right now. D. McDonald, sorry. How are you doing? Says, hey, Jimmy, Merry Christmas to you and yours. Can you talk some about the accelerator pedal? I always assume the upper engine maintained auto throttle based on hydraulic load, but what do I know? Okay, so D. McDonald, if anybody doesn't know, is the one that has the axe. So that's where the axe went. The throttle it's drive-by-wire. So there's a rheostat built into the accelerator pedal in the upper cab, and then the computer tells the engine what RPM to run at based on the throttle position. However, it is not, I control the throttle completely. It's not controlled based on load, with the exception of if I engaged Tadano's, what do they call that? Oh, shoot, I can't remember the name of it. Load adjuster. So the Tadano has a function on it called load adjuster. And what that is if the hook is centered over a load, I can push that button and just cable up, and it'll hold it at about 1150 RPM. And as I'm cabling up, the boom deflection will be dealt with automatically by the computer. However, I don't use it. I don't use that function. And here's why. And it's a neat idea. And I guess if you grew up with using something like that, then it would be something that I would use more often. But with the throttle locked at about 1150 RPM, if that load starts to shift when it starts to come off the ground, it's hard to recover. So when I'm doing it manually, like when I'm cabling up and booming up, taking the deflection out, if the load starts to shift, I can boom up really fast. I can stand on the throttle in a hurry and give it a whole lot of boom up and catch the load if it's going away from me, or if it's coming towards me, I can boom down. So I like having more control over the pick than what load adjuster affords me. Now, if you, in a perfect world, if you had a spotter spot you perfectly over the center of gravity on a load, activated load adjuster, and then just cabled up, it would work flawlessly every time. But there's no guarantee you're going to be perfectly centered over it. Okay, so I got to get caught up here. Dalton Feeks make a snowman with the Korean world's biggest snowman. Gonna send you a message on Facebook page. All right, Chris, I'll check that out. David, no, my brother is not involved in a demolition company. Andy B, Merry Christmas to you as well. Oh, J80 Elite and I are going to do some bucket rebuild. That's cool. Alex Williamson, Line Adventure, says he loves RC stuff. West Coast Logging, I'm not in Idaho anymore. Brandon, back over in Oregon. Jimmy, has Tony Beats from Gold Rush called you yet to operate his cranes? He has not. Tom Adolph, how are you? Been subscribed to your channel for several months now. I look forward to seeing all your videos. I also watch Let's Dig every day. Well, thanks for tuning in, Tom. D. McDonald. Okay, so there's a mix of control with the joysticks and throttle. Yes and no. I mean, Christopher Doyle, hi, brother, is curious as if you are a member of the IUOE. I am. I'm a member of IUOE Local 101. So D. McDonald, the way I'm precise with the Tadano is I will use a mix of joystick input and also throttle. So if I'm cabling down, and I do it subconsciously, I do it kind of without thinking about it. As I'm cabling down, if I want to slow down, then I'll back off the joystick a little bit, but I'll also back off the throttle. D. McDonald, Don. Oh, don't want to hijack. Oh, you're fine. The questions you have, I'm sure a lot of people have the same question. They just haven't asked it. Harold asks, Alex, when will we see more video from you? That means they want you to put out more content, Alex. West Coast logging, Alex. Harold, after Christmas, we'll have some videos up. All right. J80 says the way I do is kinder to the crane. Brandon asks, are the glasses new, Jimmy? Actually, I've had glasses for a few years, and I was wearing contacts, and then I quit wearing contacts for two reasons. One is I would sometimes forget to take them out at night, so I'd end up leaving my contacts in for a couple days. And then the other is, well, to give you guys an idea how often I didn't wear my contacts, is 2 years ago I got 6 months supply of contacts, and I still have a pair of contacts left. So I wasn't wearing them all the time because of the inconvenience. So then I decided to switch back to glasses. So Mark Fiden, my dad, he just tuned in. He says, nice glasses. When did you get those? I've had them for about a week now. And let me tell you, getting used to these while sitting in the crane was kind of a challenge. My first day with them, my depth perception was messed up pretty severely. So I would bring the hook down, and I would be 8 feet away from the center of what I was trying to pick. So I'm gradually getting used to them again. Brandon says, Jimmy, have you seen the spider excavators? I have, and those things are insane. Brandon says, hey, Mark Fiden, Merry Christmas. Andy B, have I ever broke down on the road going to a job? Knock on wood, no, I haven't. J80, my glasses are so thick my contacts would weigh 2 pounds. That'd be pretty rough to put 2-pound contacts in your eyes. Andy B, I hope I never break down going to a job. That crane would be very difficult to tow. I know, I mean, it's possible, but it would be probably more than Ron Pratt's rotator would want to try to chew on. Brandon says, is there anything even capable of towing your crane? I'm sure there's some stuff out there, but I mean, it would take a pretty healthy one. West Coast Logging Alex asks, how often do you guys replace the crane's wire rope? Only when it's damaged. Really, as long as the rope's maintained, then it can last a really long time. And when I say really long time, years. The biggest thing is you want to keep it away from stuff, so you don't want to get the rope up against things, and keep it lubricated. Dalton Feek says, can you change the controls like a Bobcat or excavator like ISO and standard in the crane? I cannot change the controls. Crane controls are standardized. They did that several years ago. I mean, there's a few, like the Brodersons, and there's a few other cranes that the controls are kind of backwards in. But for the most part, the crane controls are standardized. So I have joystick controls in the Tadano. In your right hand, if you have the one joystick in your right hand, if you push it to the right, it booms down. If you push it to the left, it booms up. If you pull back on it, it cables up. If you push it forward, it cables down. Left joystick is swing left, swing right, telescope out, retract in, or if I flip a switch, I can switch that to auxiliary winch. So the left joystick would control the auxiliary winch, the second winch. Mark Fide said, hope Daltex and company enjoyed the Christmas turkeys. I haven't seen anything out of Daltex. I don't know if he's hiding somewhere or what's going on. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures. One of the coolest features about my RC excavators is it has programmable dig assist function. That'd be pretty cool. John Warren hated his glass at first with no line. J80 said a lot of work to get the rope spooled properly. Actually, it's not bad as long as you have it like when we order new rope for a crane. When they put it on the spool, as long as you feed it the correct direction off of the spool onto your drum, it's not an issue. And there is a way to do it. You can't just grab the end of the rope and throw it up into the winch and start winding it up. You have to have the spool oriented correctly for it to feed correctly onto the drum. Brandon said, was just watching Jason's video. His new trailer is pretty nice. It is a pretty nice trailer. West Coast Logging Alex says, very true. Line lube, spooling, and don't burn it on anything. And West Coast Logging Alex, the way we treat our crane cable is probably much different than what you guys would see as far as logging on like some of your tuggers and some of the stuff you guys are using. The crane cable, we try to keep it out of the dirt as much as possible. Sometimes it's inevitable when you're swinging the jib and whatnot. You have to have enough rope paid out that you can put it up on top of the jib. I do not let it touch anything. So if I have to drop a piece down through, and I've got footage of this coming up, but if I have to drop a piece down through an opening in a roof, I make the rigging long enough that if they have to pull the piece one way or the other, the rigging touches the side of the opening instead of the crane cable. So I treat that crane cable like a newborn baby because that is the only thing that attaches whatever you're picking to the end of your boom. And if it comes apart, it's a catastrophic situation. Brandon says, what's your opinion on the new GM HD trucks? Apparently a lot of people don't like the look of them. Are you talking about the 2020 GMs that are coming out? Because those things are ugly. West Coast Logging Alex asks, how do you hook the line up to the drum? Quick nub, set screw, or wedge? I'm not sure how it's put into the Tadano drum. I haven't had to replace the rope on it. I think it is ran through, and it has a wedge block and also a series of set screws. I think there's like 10 set screws that go through and hold the wedge in place. David says help change cables on deadlines a few times. Some of the crane winches, they have a wedge like what would be in a Beckett, where you feed it through a hole in the drum, you bend a tail around it, put the wedge in the loop, and then pull it tight. Some have where you run through a hole through the side of the spool on the winch, and then they have a set screw type system that locks it in place. There's several different methods of attaching it. It just depends on how your drum's configured. Brandon said, yeah, the 2020 GMs, what was GM thinking? Rumor has it, and I don't know how much truth there is to it, but supposedly GM had hired one of maybe Nissan's former engineers or something. And I don't know, but I've seen some pictures of the 2020 GM trucks, and I think they got it all wrong. JB98, how are you doing? D. McDonald said, enjoyed hydraulic cylinder repair, reminded me of hydraulic jib. I know a well-maintained cylinder is reliable, but not like a pinned jib. Cylinder basically holds the load. There's really no backup system. That's a fact, and I can tell you that hydraulic cylinder on the jib on that Tadano, I would say it's probably 10 times stronger than what it probably needs to be. I mean, that thing is built like a tank. I haven't seen many that are built the way that cylinder is on that Tadano jib. Oh, David says draglines, dumb autocorrect. Brandon said Nissan can't sell any trucks. Why would GM hire anyone from their truck department? What a mistake. Lawn Commander, they look like a Dodge. They don't even really look like a Dodge. It looks like they were trying to go back to the old square body, but with a newer look to it. And I mean, if they were throwing darts, they missed the board. I mean, that's my opinion, but I don't know. Let's see if we can find a picture of one, and we'll pull it up and see what everybody thinks. Come on, Google. All right, let's see if we can full screen this picture. So let's see if that'll focus. I mean, that doesn't really look like a Dodge to me, and it doesn't. I don't know. It looks like they were trying to head the direction of the old square body, and just completely missed it. So I don't know. That's on them. I mean, they may sell the crap out of them. Reven Riggin, how are you doing? Brandon says the new 2020 Ram HD is apparently going to have the new interior, but keep the old cab and bed, which is odd. And here's my issue. Since we're on the subject of trucks and how they're changing them, here's my issue with how often they're changing vehicles. You know, they might go 2 model years and then completely change it up. Where before they would have to run stuff for, 10, sometimes 20 years because it costs so much to change the stamping systems. Well, now if they're only running stuff for 2 years and then completely changing the design, what kind of parts are going to be available in the future for these trucks that they only had 2 model year series of? If you have say for instance, a Dodge, that's what I drive, or a Ram, whatever. If they only make a certain body style for 2 years and then they kick it out and make something completely different, how many parts are going to be available for that 2-year run of vehicles? So at some point in the future, parts are going to be impossible to get. James Burron, how are you doing? Brandon said, yes, trucks are being changed way more than they used to be. New truck market is just too competitive. And I mean, there is a lot of truth to that. And it's, as technology has progressed, it has made it much easier for them to change the processes to make these newer body styles. I mean, their stamping and machinery can be switched now easy. As CNC has become more prevalent, well, actually, it's taken over. So as CNC's out there, you can just type on a keyboard, push a button, and the computer basically spits out a new die. So it's easy for them to change their tooling. Cooper Meshu, hello. How are you doing? Reven Riggin, they don't want to sell parts. They just want to sell more trucks. I agree. Also hurts the aftermarket companies have to design new stuff every year. Yeah, that would be tough. J80 says, I like long production runs. You get used to what you're working on. And I do too. I mean, nothing beats the old square body Chevy. I mean, they ran that thing for years and years and years. And that was probably the most successful truck that GM ever made. Why not just do that again? Instead of making it look like crap, just build another square body. They would sell like crazy. All of us people in our 30s and 40s that loved the square body that couldn't afford them, when we were 16 or 17, now that we can afford them, we'd buy the crap out of them. Brandon is not a fan of all the aluminum on trucks. Trucks shouldn't be made of soda cans. Yes and no. I mean, Brandon, looking at the crane that I operate, there's an awful lot of aluminum on that, and it seems to hold up. Tom Adolph, we had a Grove GMK 5255 axle set in air conditioning unit 3 stories up on new construction at work last fall. It's much different than your 200-ton unit. Yeah, the 5250, that's a 250-ton crane. And it's not a lot different than the Tadano ATF 180. Still a pinning boom. If you put them side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell much difference between the two, except for one's a Tadano, one's a Grove. They operate pretty much the same. Gary Johnson says, hi, Jimmy. Can't stay long. Grandkids are here. Hey, go see to your family, Gary. And thanks for tuning in. And everyone, please say some prayers for Gary. He's been in and out of the hospital in 2018. And he's had a rough 2018, so he needs a much better 2019. Brandon says, not a fan of the Tundra, but it's been out for like 12 years with the same body style and engine. Yeah, and if it works, why mess with it? J80 says, shop I work and has a lot of CNC equipment. I don't run it, but I do run turret lathes when welding gets short. Yeah, here's what I could do with CNC equipment. I could ruin a lot of tooling and probably destroy a machine. Jimmy's tractor, nice trim. J80 said aluminum trucks are good in the Rust Belt. Cooper Mesh, I have ran a Liebherr, and they're great machines. And I get asked that question a lot. I mean, which do I prefer, the Tadano, Grove, Liebherr, Link Belt? I mean, honestly, they're all pretty much comparable to one another. They achieve the same thing with a few differences here and there, but the differences are pretty insignificant. The boom pins on the Tadanos and the Groves, they use two boom pins that shoot out the sides and lock the sections in place. Liebherr uses one big pin in the top of the boom. So I guess the Liebherrs have one less boom pin. But they all pretty much do the same thing. Brandon, small trucks are super popular now too. Here's what I don't get with the small trucks. Yeah, Lawn Commander, new square body that would sell the crap out of them. Absolutely. But here's the thing with the small trucks that I thought was comical. The Nissan Titan, and I guess that's a full size, considered a full size. You can get it with a small V8 Cummins in it, and it's rated to tow like 12,000 pounds or something. For $900 more, you can buy a 3/4 ton Ram with a 6.7 Cummins in it and tow 19,000. So wouldn't you spend the extra $900 and just get the 3/4 ton with the 6.7 Cummins and be able to tow two Titans? Or actually, that'd probably be about 4 Titans. So Dalton Feeks asks, what's the difference between Ron's tow truck and the 200-ton crane? It's apples and oranges. It really is. Ron's truck is designed to pull on things very hard. It's also designed to pick up heavy stuff at close distance. Whereas the crane is designed to pick up heavy stuff at a close distance and moderately heavy stuff at a very, very long radius. So the only place that they're similar is they can both lift things. Other than that, it's apples and oranges. But they both do what they're designed to do very well. So the Tadano wouldn't be very good at towing vehicles or pulling on vehicles. But what Ron can pick up at 20 feet away, I could reach out and pick up at I'm guessing 65 feet away or maybe 80 feet away. I don't know. I haven't looked at his load charts for his truck, but night and day difference. It's apples and oranges. Andy B, I think I'll stick with my Peterbilt. Yeah, Peterbilt will out tow them all. Thomas Nelson, have a great Christmas. I'm wishing for a national 14-127. Thomas Nelson's another one that I appreciate. He's a fairly new subscriber, been around for, I'm guessing, right around since Thanksgiving or so. I'm very engaged in comments, and I apologize I haven't gotten to all of yours. But very, very engaging questions. And actually, I talked to Thomas on the phone. I surprised him one day. I called him, He posted a link to his website. He actually owns his own crane company up north. Posted a link to his website. I looked up his website, got his phone number, and called him. And I don't know if I scared him or what, but caught him off guard. And I told him he probably needs to start posting some videos, like on YouTube. J80, new square body with same technology as when new, when you could swap an engine in 3 to 4 hours. Absolutely. You can't do that. You can't even get to the engine now in 3 to 4 hours. As buried as they are under stuff, it takes 3 to 4 hours just to get to the cylinder heads. Brandon, the Nissan XD is like 5/8 ton truck. Kind of a joke. GM made a truck like a long time ago, did not sell well. Cooper Meshu, what model cranes are behind me and where did I get them? The one on the far left, closest to the wall over there, is a die-cast Tadano 160G-5, which is a pretty close cousin to the 180G. They're both called a 200-ton. I've got a subscriber that operates one, and we were comparing load charts. And mine will outpick the 160. The 180G will outpick the 160 at off a main boom, but the 160 puts on more counterweight. So I don't understand how that works out. But anyway, and then the one next to it is a diecast GR1000. So it's a rough terrain Tadano, and they came from Tadano. So you can go on Tadano's website and order those if you were looking to pick one up. JD, we had 5/8 ton. It was a home done, put 10.5 rear and diff and a half ton forward. So at half ton front brakes. JD says it takes me 4 or 5 hours to change spark plugs in a Triton V8 Ford. That sucks. Thomas Nelson says, has anyone bought a, and I'm not sure where he left off with that. Jimmy's tractor, my 89 D250 dogs will out. I'm not sure what you're asking there, Jimmy's tractor. JD says, how much HSLA steel in your boom? High strength, I don't have a clue how much is in it. There's a lot. Dickard with Dave. How are you doing, Dickard with Dave? JD says, I'm fast at it. Ford flat rate, 8 hours. Yeah, you must be pretty fast. 4 to 5 hours. That's half the book rate. So JD asked how much steel's in the boom. I've been told that if you take the boom assembly off of the crane or take the pack out of the stationary boom, and I don't know how much truth it is, but I've been told that the 5 sections with the telescope cylinder in it weighs 53,000 pounds. So that's a lot of steel. That's why when it gets stretched way out, it has a lot of deflection, even without a load. I mean, those boom sections are heavy. And I did a pick. It was Thursday, and I couldn't record because I was in a prison. And yeah, I was in prison, but I couldn't record any footage in there because they have a policy against cameras in a prison. But I had to make a pick. We were only picking a 500-pound fan, but I was using 197 feet of main boom, and I was at 182-foot radius with 79,000 pounds of counterweight on it. So I was boomed down to 20 degrees, and the last section of boom was actually pointing kind of downhill a little bit or close to. It was almost flat. And the whole time you're sitting in the seat watching her, with it boomed down like so, all you can think about is what happens to a tape measure when you extend it way out and you lay it down flat. So that kind of circles around and bounces around between your ears. It makes you a little nervous, but it still handled it. I was in my load chart. I had, I think, 6 tons on my opposite corner outrigger from where the boom was at. I was kind of over one rear outrigger a little bit. And I had, I think, 6 tons on the outrigger and on the opposite side. J80 says that's why scab plates are no good as repair. Scab plates make make stress riser, boom engineered to flex evenly across the whole length. That's a fact. And if they don't flex, then they'll break. I wish that boom deflection video that I did at night was it in the daytime, so you guys could see actually how much that thing was bending. But it's a lot. And I posted a good picture of it on the community tab on my channel, and also there's a good picture of it on my Instagram. So, and yes, I am on Instagram, To the Top Crane on Instagram. So there's a good picture of it, of the boom deflection on Instagram. Reeving rigging, the old fishing pole look from the seat always makes me cringe. Deflection, heck, it looks bent. That's what I don't like about hydros. Yeah, and it does make a person nervous. Even, I've spent 2 years in that Tadano, and even after 2 years, it still, when you boom them down that far with that much boom out, it still makes you nervous. Thompson Nelson asks, has anyone bought a unit with a Cat C7 in it? They're usually cheap, but I assume they need to be re-engined. If you're talking about boom trucks, I mean, the C7 is kind of small for a bigger truck, but for a smaller boom truck, I wouldn't think it would be too bad. I mean, a twin drive or tandem axle boom truck, like the one you're talking, you're probably only going to be running around with about 54,000 pounds. So a C7 should be okay with that. Brandon said, I follow you on Instagram, Jimmy. Great pictures you post. And I try to post more pictures on Instagram, but a lot of times I forget or I get busy and I don't take a picture of what I'm doing and I don't get it put on there. But I try to spend some time on Instagram here and there. I haven't checked it for about 3 or 4 days, though. Reven Riggin says, my old 1976 lattice boom I run only bellies when you're picking up the boom after building it up. I can see that. And a 1976 lattice boom is a year older than me. Brandon says, everyone have a wonderful Christmas and New Year. I have to head out. Have a great afternoon, evening. Thanks for stopping in, Brandon. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and New Year as well. Cooper Meshu, are you an owner operator or do you work for a company? I work for a company. I don't own the company. I just work there. James Bergeron says, hey, Jimmy, I'm sorry. As soon as I got on, I had to help Mom. Hey, don't apologize. You don't have to apologize for taking care of business at your house, my friend. I mean, that family takes precedence over anything I'm doing on YouTube. You guys, you don't need to apologize for, like James Bergeron said, he had to go help his mom. You be a good son and go help your mom anytime she needs it. But Cooper, to answer your question, I don't own the company. And Thomas Nelson, he owns his company and he's got some videos on his website. And he was kind of afraid to put them on YouTube because he said that, some of his customers might be exposed to some situations that some people might find unfavorable. Here's the skinny with YouTube videos, and I've researched it and my company's researched it. Government entities cannot issue fines based on video content. Now, if you continually post stuff that is questionable or raises eyebrows or gets their attention, they can use it as a reason to come visit you. So they can use it as a reason. They can say, hey, I saw this kind of alarmed me or was brought to my attention. I'm going to come hang out with you. And if they see anything then they can issue citations. But they can't sit there in front of a computer and just start whipping out their fines based on what they see on a YouTube video. James Byrne says we're trying to finish up with our Christmas stuff. I hope you're not out shopping because my wife and I went out earlier to pick up a few last minute things. And oh my gosh, talk about ridiculous. Places were packed. There was people everywhere. And I mean, we were doing the same thing. I'm sure it was just a bunch of people with last minute ideas and ventured out. And I ain't doing that next year. If I don't have what I need to give out as gifts by December 20th, I am not giving anything out. Also, next year we're going to do the Hope for the Holidays thing again. So I will probably, I don't know what I'll auction off next year. I mean, that's a whole year away, but it's going to sneak up on us faster than what we think. So what I may do is reach out to some manufacturers and see if I can get them to donate a few things, and we'll try to put together a package of some stuff that we can auction next year for the Hope for the Holidays. So, and depending on how things are going, I'm going to see about maybe trying to match it. So we'll see what happens. Reeve Riggin asked, do you guys have enough crane work to keep operators busy, or do they like to have operators that can do other work like repairs, maintenance? I see you know a lot about the mechanics of it. We do typically stay busy enough to keep a handful of operators busy. And our company mentality is they don't like to bring in new people. They like to stay with a core group of people that they can try to keep busy year round. They don't like laying people off because they know it affects people's livelihoods and whatnot. So we try to stick with just a core group of operators. And I think there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5 or 6 of us. So yeah, we do stay pretty busy. I also work in the shop. Caleb's one of our other operators. He's also a mechanic. He works in the shop. I try to stay out of the shop as much as possible, but it never seems to work that way. I've been spinning wrenches and operating equipment since I was 18. I'm really to the point that I don't like spinning wrenches anymore. I'm just burnt out on it. I don't like it. So I try to stay out of the shop. Jimmy's Tractor, forget about getting a parking space at any restaurant with a 36-foot trailer today. I can imagine. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventure says, I really wish voiceover would read those photos. Which photos? Victor the Ripper, how are you doing? This is what happened to the old man, Jimmy. My dad, actually, if you're referring to his YouTube channel, I have actually created the channel for him. But in the middle of trying to get all of his channel art edited and stuff, I ran into some roadblocks that I'm going to have to work through with editing and changing some pictures and whatnot. And we're going to get his channel up and running. It's just taken longer than anticipated. James Bergeron says the cylinder rebuild video was cool. And I just kind of threw that one together. It was footage I'd had hanging out there since the beginning of October. And thought I'd mix it up a little bit and throw the cylinder rebuild in there. And after editing that and watching all the footage, I realized I didn't go into as much depth as what I maybe should have on that cylinder rebuild. So next cylinder I do, we will go pretty in depth in it. Basically, I want to do a video on cylinder rebuilding that someone that's never done it before could watch that video and then rebuild a hydraulic cylinder of similar build. Oh, Victor the Ripper said, I'm talking about you looking good, man, with the beard trim. Well, thank you. Other than all this gray, but my wife seems to like it better this length. I just kind of let it grow, and then every now and then it's kind of like the weeds around your fence, especially on the backside of your fence. Sometimes you just let them grow, and then sooner or later you see it and you trim them. So it's kind of the way I do it. J80 says we like it that way because layoffs can cause division within your local union. Yeah, in ours, the way our union is set up is it's a hiring hall. There's an out of work list. As one person gets laid off, they get put on the list, and they just work their way through people based on skill set customer needs, stuff like that, or company needs. So there's not as much division. Like in the construction side of things, layoffs are expected. When you're working on a construction project, every day you go to work, you're gradually working yourself out of a job. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. That's the way it works. So layoffs are nothing unfamiliar to people. Oh, Alex Williamson Blind Adventure says the Instagram photos. Yeah, I don't know how to describe what's in all those without just sitting there telling you what's on them. Victor the Ripper said, I'm pretty sure you're a rare breed of crane operator who knows how to work on his crane. I would like to say that I'm not. I mean, I don't know. I kind of have taken for granted that I can fix most anything. It's just, it's one thing I've instilled in my kids. If you can read, you can teach yourself to do anything. I taught them that from a very young age before they could read. Not bragging on my daughter. Well, I guess I am going to brag on my daughter. My daughter's almost 18 now. Before she could say the letters, you could ask her to pull the magnetic letters off of the refrigerator. And if you told her to pull an A off, she would walk over to the A and pull it off. If you told her to pull an S off, she'd walk over and pull an S off. She could recognize those letters before she could say them. And that's because of the investment of time that we put in to our kids. I'm a firm believer that kids are one of those things you get out of them what you put into them. So if you put education into them, then they're going to educate themselves. And I don't mean that they need to go to college and get a college degree if they don't choose that path, but they need to educate themselves in something. Let's see. James Bergeron said, I actually understood what was being done to the cylinder without you going into much detail because I have seen that done before and watched videos of it being done. Yeah, and I'll do another one. Thomas Nelson, you're only starting to show your gray. Doug Larson said, if I remember correctly, the Tadano has 2 winches. What do you use the second winch for? Tandem lifts or turning stuff mid-air? Or that's it exactly. The second winch, we will use it for, okay, imagine if you will, let me grab something as a reference. Okay, we got a marker. Imagine the crane boom is sticking up here, and this is a tank that needs to be vertical. So what I'll do is I'll take my auxiliary winch line and hook it to the bottom, and I'll take my main winch line and hook it to the top, even though it's oriented horizontally. And to stand this up, I will cable up with the main winch and let the auxiliary down, and that will turn the tank upright. We do the same thing with like precast concrete and whatnot. When they haul it in on trucks or even tilt up, you'll pick it up off the slab, stand it up, pick it up off a trailer, stand it up. So that's primarily what the second winch is used for. Jason Works a Lot. How are you doing, Jason Works a Lot? And congratulations on your channel growth. That is phenomenal. Jason Works a Lot is definitely a channel for you guys to watch because he is definitely going somewhere. Cooper Meshew, do you know any other Meshews? Because you're the first person to pronounce my last name correctly. I do not. I just kind of rolled with it. J80 says, I've been laid off 6 times in 17 years. The company and union worked together a lot in the last 10 years to get us where we are now, where they can keep the staff we have year round. I mean, ultimately, that would be the way to go. If you have a consistent business, that's the way to go. If you're a contractor building a skyscraper, you're going to have, workforce in there that eventually when the skyscraper's done, your workforce is going to have to go somewhere. Let's see. Victor the Ripper said what he's asking is, do you think he could get rolling in this field right where you're at? I heard stories of my union working apprentices 1 month and even 10 days a year. You would be hard pressed to jump straight into a crane if that's what you're asking. To jump into a crane like I operate takes some years of being around them and around smaller cranes. You know, operating smaller cranes and being around cranes for some time. To just walk into a company and jump straight into $1 million crane is not likely to happen. Paul Woolner says we always have to use 2 cranes to top and tail silos. I have picked and tailed stuff up to about 55 feet long with its dono. I think actually the biggest thing that I've picked myself and tailed myself with both winches was a all steel staircase with concrete treads. I think it weighed about 48,000 pounds, and picked it and tailed it with the ATF 200 or ATF 180. Jason Works thought I tired. Hey, I spoke with the doctor. He said I had nothing to worry about regarding the growth. Oh, wait, that growth. Thanks, comrade. That's funny. Oh, Victor the Ripper. Oh, never mind. I'm guessing I'm completely missing what you're shooting at there. Jeff Skews just got back from Harrisburg, picked up a new Springer pup for Dad. I hope Dad's expecting a puppy. That's one of those gifts that you got to be careful with. Alex Williamson's Light Adventures. What's up, Jason Plays a Little? Richard the Ripper. No rigging or oiler groundsmen for excavators. I haven't earned a seat. Victor the Ripper, how long you been rolling with that? J80, we build boiler cleaning equipment, so work is faster and slower, is managed with overtime and transfers. You can live in there if you can paint, weld, assemble, and machine, because always busy somewhere. And that's the key. I mean, being diverse or having a diverse skill set is the key to staying busy anywhere. Or even rigging, I've never been a union operator, as the company I work for is not signatory, and they always had a hard time finding friction rig operators, so they train in-house. How hard is it to become union? If you have experience, if work is fairly busy, most of the unions will sign you up for their apprenticeship program. You just go apply. If you have a lot of experience, some of the halls will just test you out. So it's going to vary by jurisdiction and how busy they are. But I mean, if you have experience, go hit them up. Let them know what your experience is. Don't falsify anything, because they're going to send you out based on what you tell them. And if you can't do the work, those contractors are going to send you right back to the hall, and they're going to know that you maybe falsified some stuff. But if you can operate a dozer and cut tenths with it, and you put that on the paperwork, then the contractor is going to keep you. If you put on your paperwork that you can operate a dozer and cut tenths with it, and all you can do is cut 3 inches at a time, they're not going to keep you around very long. So the hall's going to catch on to that. But if you've got experience, get in there if you want to get in there, and go to your local hall and apply. James Bergeron, when I go to the union training program, I plan on taking any training they offer to be able to run any kind of equipment. That's the biggest thing, is being diverse. If you can operate many different things, or you can work on many different things, you will stay busy. Ant D36, I work as a field engineer for a heavy civil company. What is the worst thing people do on the ground around your crane? That's hard to say, really. The thing I hate the most, and I even have to get onto some of our own people for it, but the thing I hate, okay, 2 things I hate the most. One is, if you're flagging me, you better keep your eye on that load the entire time. We've got a few guys that'll be sitting there giving you signals and talking to the guy next to him, looking that guy in the face. and I'm watching him, and I know full well that he is not watching the load when he's signaling me. So I stop. If a person's signaling a crane, they better have their eyes on that load the entire time, period, because I can't see it or they wouldn't be signaling me. Second is when people around the crane aren't watching the load. So, say we're pulling something off a truck and there's 5 people standing around. I come up off the truck with the load, and 4 out of the 5 people aren't watching it come up. That drives me crazy because if they're not watching the load, I know they're not paying attention to what I'm doing, and I will stop the pick. If everybody around the crane and the load is not paying attention to what the crane's doing, then I stop. Andy 36, I do stay away from the load. And I mean, there are times when people have to be near the load. There's actually times when people have to be under a load. And I know a lot of people say, well, that's a no-no. You can't ever be under the load. That's actually false. There's times when people have to be under the load. Cell phone towers, erecting steel, sometimes flying trusses. Situations like that, people have to be under the load. So it's permissible. You have to make sure everything is in place. But everybody needs to pay attention to what the crane's doing. And if you're not going to pay attention to what the crane's doing, just leave the area. Reven Riggin says, thanks. I have 15-year seat time and NCCO card for 4 different types of cranes. I'm only good with cranes and mechanics. Reven Riggin, I'd say you'd be a shoe-in. You should be able to go to, I'm not sure where you're located, but you should be able to go to your local hall and pull information down. And, I mean, they could turn you right out to put you to work. But it's going to depend on their area, their workload, how much stuff they got going on in the area. If they've got 200 guys sitting on their out of work list, they may not bring you in. If they've got 2 guys on their out of work list, they're probably going to bring you in. Victor the Ripper said, did turnaround rigging union here in Houston. There's a ton of commercial and civil jobs, but it's all contractors who hire cheap labor, non-union. That happens in a lot of states, and it's pretty frustrating. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures says, after the stream, I'm probably going to finish packing. Where are you traveling to, Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures? Cooper Meshew says, have a good evening. I'm guessing you're checking out. Thanks for stopping in. Victor the Ripper, if you catch him not looking at the load, you turn around and go back to the shop. Diva, just kidding. The only time I would turn around and go back to the shop, and I tell people this with crews that I don't work with often, if they can't control their load and it hits the crane, I will set their load down wherever it's at and fold the crane up and take it home. And typically that gets their attention pretty quickly. And actually, I had a job that I was doing some precast, and some guys kept walking under the precast panels, and I shut their job down for about 5 minutes while we all had a impromptu meeting, and I explained to everybody on the job that if one more person walked under a load, I was going to shut the crane off and go to the house, and they could explain to their owner why they lost an entire day of construction because everybody couldn't keep themselves from walking under the precast panels. Reven rig, my pet peeve is folks that think you have a 100-ton rig and you can pick 100 tons pretty much. I've had it. I had one guy, he's like, that's a 200-ton crane. Can't you pick 200 tons 180 feet away? No, I can pick 200 tons like 8 feet away. Andy 36, do you do any pile driving with mobile cranes? Hydros are not the rigs to use for pile driving. It is very hard on booms. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody that's driving pile with a hydro, with a pinning boom, or even a live boom. Pile driving's typically always done with a lattice boom crane. James Bergeron says, when I watch heavy equipment work, I know how to be safe and stay safe. The first thing I do is ask if it's okay to watch them work. Then I will stand far distance away where I'm out of the way. Andy wears safety gear. Good plan. Reeve Riggin, I'm in Cali, but got to get out of here. The state has gone completely nuts. I'm looking at Oklahoma. Reeve Riggin, I don't know. I mean, nothing against Oklahoma, but Missouri voted down the right to work state stuff, so you might look northeast of Oklahoma. Just saying. Victor the River, but those are your guys, no the riggers. J80, if someone I have to team up with puts my safety in danger, I'll not mix with them well. I have to handle stuff with cranes all the time. That is why I left the department where we left with 2 cranes. Got tired of people not following my lead on setting rigging. Welders, lead man, welders, helpers don't want to listen. Yeah, and I mean, I've had cases where I've had to educate people from time to time. I mean, if it's okay, I'm one of those people that I don't like to yell. To me, yelling accomplishes nothing. It gets people frustrated. It makes them lay down on the job. You end up in a screaming match or whatever. I don't like to yell. So I will get out and talk to somebody. Sometimes I will talk to them very sternly, but I won't yell at them. I've worked around places and worked for people that all they do is like to yell, and terrible places to work. So that's not to say that I can't get someone's attention by having a very stern conversation. Sometimes that has to happen. Reven Riggin says, thanks for all the info. Have a very Merry Christmas and prosperous and safe New Year. You do as well. And Reven Riggin, if you want to reach out to me, you can email me at tothetopcrane@gmail. And I mean, if you're wanting to make a move, I'll do what I can to help you out. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures. I'm going to West Jefferson, North Carolina to celebrate Christmas. And I'll be back on the 26th. Well, I hope you have a safe trip out there, Alex. Victor the Ripper asks Reven Riggin, what's wrong with Cali? J80 says, when you flip and roll, things are not balanced well and center of gravity changes during flip. Rigging has to be perfect. And that's a fact. Last thing you want to do is have something fall to the ground and uncontrolled. And I can generally tell by watching a crane operator for a very short period of time if they can maintain control or not. Lawn Commander, probably still snow in West Jefferson. Yeah, you guys got a lot of snow down there. Jimmy's Tractor says, guys like you don't have to yell. You are very imposing. I don't know that I mean, my son's friends think that I'm intimidating. I don't see it. I'm just me. I'm really laid back unless the situation warrants otherwise. Thomas Nelson, he gets really beat off when young guys are texting while I'm swinging trusses overhead, and he's not quiet about it. Yeah, and trusses, that's one of those things that you got to be very careful with trusses, because a lot of times people are standing on 2x6 walls or even 2x4 walls. And my rule of thumb is if guys aren't watching, if both people on the walls or if everybody that's on walls aren't watching the truss come in, I will stop swinging. And when they ask, well, why are you stopping? Because typically when you're stacking trusses out, they want you to go as fast as you can bring them in. And when they ask why I'm not swinging, I always ask them why they're not paying attention. So if everybody that's on top of a wall is not watching that truss come at them, I stop. And I'll tell them, I don't care if it takes 2 days to set this house of trusses out or apartment building, whatever. Our crane gets paid by the hour. If they want to get me in and out of there as fast as possible, they need to keep their eye on the load. Let's see. Get caught up here. Reven Riggin, Victor the Ripper. I'm originally from South Dakota. I'm a pretty normal country boy from cattle ranch. These people here are way too. Yeah, I'm not getting involved in politics, so you guys can keep that between you two in comments if you want, but I'm not getting involved in politics. Not to say I don't have, some of my own ideals, but Not discussing it on the old YouTubes. James Berger on the other day when we moved one of my late great grandpa's table saws, we really could have used the crane. That was one very heavy table saw. That would be a very expensive table saw by the time I got to Louisiana and helped you pick that up with a crane. JD says I won't yell at people either. Too much BS. I just won't work with them. I am to go home every night to my family in as good a shape as when I left them. That's a fact. I want to go home the same way I showed up, except for maybe a little bit more tired. Back to the Ripper, no way. I mean, I never experienced that stuff outside of the internet. And D36, something I hadn't realized, but it's quite obvious, is what one of our operators told me. The hardest load to pick is a very light one. It swings and spins all over the place. That and one of the hardest loads to pick is something that's moderately light a long ways from the hook. So if you have long rigging, say for instance, like the block on the Tadano, the small block that I use most of the time with up to 6 parts of line, it weighs 1,800 pounds. So say I've got that 1,800 pound block hanging there, and then I've got a 20-foot strap, and then something that weighs 300 or 400 pounds hooked to that 20-footer. What'll happen is the block and the load can start swinging opposite directions of one another, and it is very, very hard to catch that. Lawn Commander said they got about 14 inches in Asheville. That's a lot of snow. Andy B says he's going to go visit his elderly mother. Hope everyone has a great Christmas and New Year. Andy B, thanks for stopping in. Merry Christmas to you and Happy New Year as well. Hope your elderly mother is doing well. JD Safety is job 1. Victor the Ripper. So we've been talking to someone so admired and accomplished that he can shut down the job and his company will let him. I don't say that I'm so admired and accomplished. I don't do anything that anybody else can't do. I don't have a cape, but the company that I work for will stand behind me on decisions that I make, because ultimately, the safety of everyone around the crane is the top priority, and then the safety of the crane. So my company's not going to let me do something that puts people in danger or their $1 million crane in danger. So they do stand behind the decisions that I make, and I don't take that power lightly. I mean, it's not like I just walk into a job and be like, hey, you're not paying attention to what I'm doing, I'm going to shut your job down. Or you're not watching the load, I'm going to shut this job down. That's not the way that works. If someone is continually putting themselves or someone else in danger, then we will stop for a little while. A few minutes generally is all it takes, and have a discussion about it. And a lot of times people just don't realize they're putting themselves in danger because they don't see it from the same seat that I see, or the same view that I see it from. And which that's a lot of the reason why I don't do a lot of hard hat camera stuff, because I look around a lot. It's my responsibility to keep an eye on everybody that's working around the crane, and a lot of times I see stuff they don't see. Victor the Ripper, pay attention, boys. Jimmy's Tractor. I'm just in the top 1% of power lifters. I can bench 600 pounds. I'm not posing. I can't bench 600 pounds. Where's the Ripper? You lost me, Reven. Regan, sorry, Jimmy. It was not my intent to go political. I'm truly sorry. Sometimes my fingers are working fast. You don't have to apologize to me. You guys can have all the political conversation you want to have in comments. I'm just not going to get involved. That's one thing I said from the time I started this channel, is I will not involve politics on it. But what you guys do in comments, that's up to you guys. Thomas Nelson, my spare, does that. The ball will be still, the truss will still be, the truss will be still, but the spreader will saw back and forth. What's your fix? Shorter rigging between the spreader and the truss, maybe. course, that's probably just going to make the truss start swinging if your spreader outweighs the truss. You could try to go from, I'm not sure what how your spreader is set up. I'm sure you probably have a spreader beam where you've got straps hooked to the top of it coming down, and then straps coming off of the pick points on the spreader beam down. You could maybe try switching to a picking beam where you can hook your hook directly to the beam. And like, okay, spreader beam has strap and a strap up to the hook. The picking beam, your hook directly connects to the top of the beam, and then you have your straps coming off of it. If you can keep your beam closer to your ball, then the beam will work in conjunction with the ball. Or if you keep your beam closer to your load, then the beam should work in conjunction with the load. But if you've got the top of a truss here and your beam's way up here, and then you got straps coming off of that, and you've got a lot of long rigging, it's going to be hard to control that. Smedco, how are you doing, Smedco? Says the liability operator's part is reason enough to use that option to shut down the lift when warranted. Everything ends up your fault. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I've told some of our superintendents that have had disagreements with me on certain stuff. And I said, ultimately, if something happens, we all go to court. Here's the scenario. The crane goes over, someone gets hurt or killed. We all go to court. The difference is you're going to court as a witness. I'm going to court as the defendant. So regardless of how the situation turns out, that superintendent's going to go home to his family at night. If the situation turns out bad for me, I'm going to prison. Plus, I have to live with the fact that I made a decision that got someone hurt or killed. So the responsibility is pretty tremendous sitting in the seat of a machine that has the capability of causing a catastrophe. Reven Riggin says people safety always takes priority. Your company obviously knows your level of integrity. The operator can and should be able to shut down a job if safety is involved, period. James Berger, I need to make a new flexible mount for my camera, for my hard hat. Last video, Lakeside Ranch. Well said, Jimmy. Very professional. Much respect for your trade and work ethic. I appreciate that, Doug. And I mean, I try to stay as professional as possible when I'm sitting in the crane. I try to, and you guys probably hear, on my videos when I'm making picks and stuff, my vocals don't really change much. I try to stay very even keeled, try to stay very calm, and just stay collected, because if you don't stay collected inside of a crane, bad things can happen. And I've seen people come unhinged inside of a crane, and things start getting erratic. Loads are swinging around more than what they normally would, and it can create a pretty dangerous scenario. So staying even keeled, calm, cool, and collected is the way to be when you're sitting in the seat. Victor the Ripper, trusses the jib. No, he's talking about wooden trusses for like roof trusses. And I mean, if we want to go, and Thomas, if you want me to go into more detail, I forgot about the old dry erase board. We can draw some pictures and have art class, and I can show you what I'm talking about as far as the pick and beam versus spreader beam and all that. Blue Line Landworks, how are you doing? How's that video doing, Blue Line? Last you posted on a text, I think you were up to like 205,000 views or something. Alex Williamson, Blind Adventure. First night I had my crane, I lifted my D60 just how much it could hold and lost control of it and plopped right down on the ground. Tim C says pilots have similar responsibilities, and I don't disagree. J80 says you don't have to be wrong to get in trouble in court. I agree that in courts know where you want to be. David asks if I ever watched those mostly foreign crane fail videos. I do watch some here and there. I try not to watch crane fail videos. I hate to be entertained by someone else's less fortune. that's one of those things. Picture Ripper, what's up with your shirt sponsor? They're not a sponsor. My wife and I were out shopping. I just happened to put this shirt on when we were heading out the door. So this is not a sponsor. No one is paying me to wear this. I can tell you the subwoofers that I have in my home theater in my basement were made by this company. And I'll give them a free plug. They're phenomenal. It's unbelievable. I wish Mike Wells was on here to attest to it. In my home theater, I have two 18-inch subwoofers. And I can't say that my wife enjoys them because it literally shakes the ceiling. Our living room in our house is right above where my home theater is. And if I've got it turned up moderately loud, you can walk upstairs and physically watch the arm of the couch moving almost a quarter of an inch. So it's unbelievable what those subwoofers do. But they're not paying me to wear this. It's not a sponsor. Blue Line says 244,000 views, but the spike only lasted about 2 days. It'll keep doing that. And from what I've been told, and Jimmy's Tractor can attest or will tell you, is that your YouTube stuff will go like this the entire time. Hopefully it's going like this, so it's constantly trending upwards. If it ever starts going the other way, start switching some stuff up. But Doug with Lakeside Ranch says, Jimmy, you remind me of a good friend I fly with. Nothing rattles him. Very calm guy, nerves of steel, but safety is always number one. And I can't say I never get nervous. I do. I have had pics that I've made that I was so nervous my legs were shaking in the crane, but I never lost my wits, and I never panicked. I was nervous. I mean, as nervous as all get out, but the difference is not panicking. If you panic, then you start making irrational decisions, and irrational decisions have bad consequences. Bick Boy, how are you doing? Says, do you have any experience with boom locking pins not retracting, preventing you from telescoping? Okay, I have had a couple cases on the 180 to where I had boom out and it wouldn't retract the locking pin so I could retract boom. And what it is in order for the sections to come back in, the telescoping cylinder has to push that section about 1 or 2% farther than what it's locked in at, so those pins have clearance to retract. If your locking pins aren't retracting, you either need to grease them or change the grease that you're using, or you may have to reset your computer to basically recalibrate the computer. You bring your telescope cylinder all the way back and tell the computer that, hey, right now you're at 0, and then go through the sequence and let the computer relearn where the locking points are at. So if you have, Big Boy, if you're running a Tadano, I would contact their service department, tell them what you got going on, and a lot of times they can fix it over the phone. So J80 says the controls on cranes are no place for angry, intoxicated, or tired hands. Small lapse in concentration can change lives forever. That's a fact. And that's why I made a rule for myself when I got my crane certification. I will not touch a drop of alcohol the night before I have to work or the day before I have to work. So, I like to have a few drinks every now and then, typically on the weekends, because I typically don't work Saturday and Sunday. I will not drink a beer on Sunday and then go to work Monday. I will not drink a beer on a Thursday and go to work Friday. It won't happen. I don't want any amount of that in my system just in case something were to happen. So Blue Line says it stair steps up after every spike, almost 1,700 subs. Congratulations, Blue Line. That's great. I mean, that's awesome growth. J80 says nervous is okay. It means you understand and respect the danger. It keeps you sharp if you tame it. That's a fact. It does. It does make you really pay attention to everything that's going on, every little detail. My most popular video is currently sitting at 719 views, 34 subscribers. Hey, you're getting there, James. Victor the Ripper says, how heavy is a truss? Is it just 2x4s? Why even use a spreader? Rig it at 30 degrees. Here's the thing. Some trusses are extremely long. I've set trusses that are 90 feet long. So even to rig it at 30 degrees, what happens is the truss will flex in the center and break itself. Also, rigging it at 30 degrees, if your truss weighs 1,000 pounds, each leg of that rigging sees 1,000 pounds. So one, your rigging has to be strong enough, especially, I mean, if you pick up, say you have a 4,000 pound object and your rigging, each leg of your rigging is good for 2,000 pounds. If you rig that at 30 degrees, your rigging is out of capacity because each leg of that 30-degree rigging is going to see the full weight of the load. So each leg would have 4,000 pounds on it at a 30-degree rigging angle. James Brown says actually 723 views. As long as you're continually growing. Barry Hansen said, Jimmy, did you drive by my place last night? Subwoofers in the car rattled the windows of my house. No, I didn't drive by your house. That'd be a long drive for me. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures, what brand is it? Oh, what brand is what that you're asking? Like the subwoofer in my basement, it's Power Sound Audio or PSA. Lakeside Ranch says, Jimmy, the FAA rule for pilots is 8 hours bottle to throttle. Good rule. J80 says, thank you for your safety ethic on sobriety. I mean, that's just one of those things. I mean, if God forbid something were to happen and I had a beer the previous day and there was even a minuscule amount of blood or alcohol in my blood, some crazy prosecutor could use that as a way to turn it against me. I mean, and it's just not worth it. S&S Transport, how are you doing? Tim C, how are you? Is there any regulation for crane operators such as FAA regulation states 8 hours from your last consumption? The Army mandates 12 hours, no residual effects. There is nothing that I'm aware of as far as the regulation. I mean, yeah, I don't do it. I won't work with someone that does it either. Victor the Ripper, there was an operator who comes in drunk with his heart out on backwards, glasses upside down, pants falling, and his underwear showing. He was really good, though. That won't be me. Blue Line Landworks says 8 hours isn't enough if you stopped at 0.3. That's a fact. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventure says he's looking to possibly upgrade his home theater system a little bit. Power Sound and Audio stuff would get it done. Blue Line 0.3 BAC. Tim C, sorry for redundancy. No need to apologize. Thomas Nelson, I finally got the stereo system I always wanted, but now the music sucks. J80, that's a fact. Never want to have to second guess yourself. The man in the mirror never forgets. There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, some of the stuff I've been exposed to, like when I was doing my EMT clinicals back when I was an EMT, some of the stuff I was exposed to, I'll never forget it. Big Boy says, what is a crane oiler? Does that refer to a rigger or is it something different? A crane oiler is the operator's assistant. Basically helps with setting the crane up. Will sometimes be a signal person. Sometimes will be a rigger. But typically they are there to assist the crane operator with, getting mats put out, getting counterweights put on, changing the reeving on the block, all that good stuff. Back in the day, the reason why it's called oiler is back in the day, the mechanical components of a crane required constant lubrication. So you would have a person that was walking around with an oil can all over that crane, lubricating all the different shafts and bearings and bushings and whatnot. So that's how they got the name oiler. Blue Line says a typical person processes 0.15 per hour. That's pretty slow. Hence the reason why 8 hours isn't enough if you stopped at 0.3. It's kind of scary that the FAA allows 8 hours throttle to bottle. What if someone really went out and tied one on and then jumped in the old 777 with about 300 people behind them? That'd be kind of scary. D. McDonald. Hey, Jimmy, my neighbor in Suburban showed up. Merry Christmas. Thanks for sharing your experience. Hey, Merry Christmas to you, D. McDonald. Hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Too bad we're not neighbors. I would share some of that with you because I don't have to work tomorrow. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures. Hey, Thomas, what kind of music do you listen to? I get asked what I listen to on the Crane, and I listen to the Crane. It's got a stereo in it, but I don't listen to it. And some people think I'm crazy for not listening to the radio, but I want to be able to hear what the Crane's doing. David says, drive truck, get annoyed when I see drivers picking up a six-pack at the truck stop. I could see that. JD, he likes crap country rap. Victor the Ripper, how often you have to grease crane nowadays? I notice it isn't done for weeks at a job site. Different parts of the crane require lubrication at different intervals. The sheaves in your block on the tip, they require more lubrication, or they require lubrication more frequently because it's a constantly moving part. Sometimes, too, why you won't see cranes greased all that often is like the Tadano that I operate. It's got a central lubrication system, so it greases most all of its points just with the central lubrication system. However, we do have to grease the bottom side of the boom, and I'll get some video of that because the old 180 is getting close to needing it. We just roll that on with a paint roller. It's grease in a bucket. Roll it on with a paint roller, and then I have to grease the boom pins by pulling some access covers off the side of the boom, grease the boom pins. But the newer rigs, they still require grease. It's just a lot of times it's automated. Thomas Nelson says, bluegrass, no radio on the crane. And Thomas runs a stand-up boom truck, so it'd be pretty hard to keep a radio out there without it getting destroyed. Tim C says FAA also states a person cannot act or attempt to act as a crew member while under the influence of alcohol. James Bergeron says, when I get into heavy equipment as an operator, I won't have the radio on either. Rather listen to the machine, easier way to hear what's going on with it. That's why I don't listen to the radio. Now, if I'm going to be sitting in one spot for a couple hours, which does happen, then I might kick it on and listen to the radio for a little bit. But as soon as it's time to start doing stuff, radio goes off. Smedco, having an oiler is a big plus, not fun having to rely on the customer to help swing a jib, for example. That's a fact. Elite Earthworks. How are you doing, Brandon, with Elite? So, Elite and Jason, while you guys are both on here, can you answer the question, whose channel are you guys streaming on? Are you going to be on Elite's channel, Jason's channel? And there was rumor that you both may be on Logger Wade's channel. So let's dispel myths and let everybody know where to go. We've got 45 people watching right now that come 7 o'clock need to be over there watching you guys. All right, streaming on Brandon's channel. Can either one of you two throw a link to Brandon's channel up in comments? Elite says, I guess mine. So if we can get a link thrown up to Brandon's channel. Jason says, we'll let Brandon decide the time so I can be late. If one of you guys wants to throw a link to Brandon's channel up here in comments, everybody go subscribe to Brandon, and at 7 Central, that's where you guys need to be. So 7 o'clock Central, that channel link that Jason Works a Lot put up, that is your new Better Than Saturday Night Live entertainment. Oh, Elite says thank you, Jimmy. No reason to thank me, my friend. You guys are killing it right now, and it's awesome. It's awesome to watch it and talk about it with you guys. And Jimmy's Tractor told me a long time ago. It's really neat watching channels progress, and it's people that are really in it, where they're making videos consistently and they're putting time into their videos, and it's neat to watch it grow. Lead Earthworks. Let's not build it up too much. Okay, so I guess it's gonna suck. No reason to go there. Is that what you'd rather me say? I mean, Alex Williamson's Blind Adventure. Well, you could use JBL Charge 3-way. They're waterproof neck. Yeah, there's a solution for you, Thomas. Bluetooth speaker. Lakeside Ranch says way better than Saturday Night Live. Diamond Rio. Hey, Jimmy, Jason, Brandon, everyone else. How are you doing, Diamond Rio? J80 Elite keeps the casting house for bucket teeth in business. He does go through a lot of teeth, but if you saw well, I guess you do see it in his videos. If you guys completely understood what digging through old footings and stuff was like, it actually blows my mind that Brandon is able to get anything done in Joplin after the tornadoes. Consistently, we do not have that word in the motherland. Can you explain, please? Consistently, well, Jason, you can look it up in Webster. 2340 here. What time is 7 Central? I don't know. One, I'm not real good with military time. It's what we call it here. Elite Earthworks, it's mediocre at best. Jim, in our area, part of the oiler's job is to clean the rig. That is a fact too, Jim. In our area, it's part of the oiler's job to clean the rig as well. JD, we need Frank here also. That's a fact. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventure says, I tell you, I watched one of their live streams. I never laughed so hard before in my life. That Jason works a lot. Jimmy, who is Webster. Lakeside Ranch. Brandon gets my vote as a determined operator. And when Brandon was digging some footings, he was hard on himself because his footings didn't turn out like Frank's down there in Oklahoma. And Frank even admitted that he was digging in dirt that was like butter. Brandon is digging in dirt that is so full of trash and rubble. It's amazing that he even gets them done. Tyler says Loggerway joining Elite Earthworks and Jason Works a lot. I'm not sure. All right, there's your clarification, Paul. Let's see. We got 1900 to 7 p.m. James Berger and Brandon and Jason are funny when they stream together. Thomas Nelson says, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Thomas. His son just got home. You stay safe out there as well, Thomas. David says 1 a.m., I think. East Coast digging is way different. I'm sure it is.
When are you going to grill them steaks, man?
I'm on a live stream right now until 6. You want to say hi to everybody?
What's up? Who else on there?
About 47 people.
Pretty solid. How long do they have to sit in the fridge?
I don't know. You can go flip them if you want, carefully without spilling it everywhere.
I'll do my best.
So that was my youngest that just walked in. I'm marinating some steaks in the fridge, and he wanted to know when I was going to start cooking them. The kid's almost 16 years old and constantly eats. I mean, it blows my mind the amount of food that kid consumes. I guess I was probably the same way at almost 16, but I don't know how my parents did it with 3 teenage boys. Yeah, there's times that I think that I should own a farm. Oh, that's funny. Jason Workslot says also everyone buy their Christmas cheer and joy at loggerwade.com. Use promo code Big Deal for 18% off your order shipping. That's funny. See, that's the kind of comedy you guys will get going over there for that live stream. Barry Hansen, they do that at that age. JD, 15 minutes before meals. My kids are like homeless at Christmas. So what's your guys' topic tonight, Brandon and Jason? Do you even have one? You can also get that comedy at loggerwade.com. So I'm sorry I threw everybody a curveball with doing the whole live stream a day early, but we're going to be pretty involved tomorrow. So actually, I think my oldest brother and I are going to my parents, and we're going to probably cut about 25 or 30 trees worth of firewood for my dad's catering business so he can keep running his smoker. Jason works a lot, try to stay awake and not get Brandon demonetized. With a winky face and a halo, Brandon, you may be in trouble. JD, the topic is Brandon is going to start rotating teeth. Yeah, and I guess, Brandon probably needs to pick himself up a stick welder and some hard-facing rod and start maybe working on his buckets a little bit with all that rock he's going through. Lakeside Ranch, that's intense drama. Brandon, I'm pretty sure Jason could probably get you demonetized. J80, Brandon is hard on corner teeth. Oh, Elite says he's got one. He just doesn't know how to use it. Well, Brandon, I am probably going to be passing through your area sometime after the first of the year. Should I stop by for a couple hours? I'm going to have my welding helmet with me anyway because I've got to go to Texas down to my brother's place and start working on some stuff for the second channel that's going to require a welder and welding helmet. Brandon says he's going to come here for that. Yeah, sometime I'm guessing maybe the second week of, no, I can't do the second week of January. My son's birthday is right around then. Maybe the third week of January or so, I'll probably be running down to Texas, and I'll go through Joplin on my way down or on my way back. One way or another, I'll roll through Joplin and meet up with you for a few hours. If you want to break out the old welder, then we can do some quick impromptu welding lessons. Jason works like Brandon learns to stick weld next vigil. All doors in the city of Joplin welded shut. Lakeside Ranch, two top green teaser for the second, another teaser for the second channel. Possibly. JD, I'm holding him to it. I will continue to remind him. That'd make a pretty cool video, though. I'd come down there and hang out for a little bit and break out the welder and do some stuff. Of course, what's going to happen is I'll show up. Brandon's probably going to be on a job where he needs his mini and his skid loader to be running, and I'm probably going to get stuck in the seat of one or the other for a little while. Is probably how that's going to work out, which would be okay. There's nothing like operating someone else's stuff. When you don't have a dime in it, you can run it like you stole it. course, then if I break it, I'm going to be stuck there even longer because I'll be working on Brandon stuff. Barry Hansen says you'd love to see it. While I'm there, should we put a 9-speed in your dump truck? I know you said it only goes, 50 or 55 miles an hour? And a 9-speed would fix that. Leach just finishing working right now. Man, talk about a guy that's burning his candle at both ends. He's as bad as Jason. Those two, I don't think, ever sit down. J80 said wire feed is really the way to go with hard surface. Barry Hansen, would I fit in the cab? Barry Hansen, is that a fat joke? Yes, I can fit in the cab of a skid loader. Oh, Elite says yes, but it's so easy to drive right now. Yeah, that's right. I think it's got an Allison in it. So with the old Allison, you can eat and drive at the same time. Timon Rio says definitely needs a trans swap. Standing currently, actually. Leader Earthworks. Miss Elite goes crazy on Christmas, so needs monies. Well, and really, with the weather we've been having, it'd be hard not to be out there making it happen like you are. I mean, we've had some pretty spectacular weather for your business. Jason works a lot. Mrs. Elite hates money. Away with it all. J80 said he's so fat when he sits around the house. He sits around the house. Oh, we've gone from trucks to cranes to welding to a comedy show. Lakeside Ranch says at Two Top Crane Adelaide Earthworks, you guys set up a meetup and I'll join you with my drone equipment and give Brandon some really cool camera angles that he dreams of. That would be awesome. And Lakeside Ranch, I may have asked you before and I forgot, but I don't know where you're located, but I would love some drone footage of some of the crane jobs that I do. Jim says you can have the skid loader. I'm too old for them. At least Brandon's is a track machine, so it's not as hard on you as an old rubber tired machine. Jason works a lot. Isn't 80 grand? Oh, Lakeside Ranch, Massachusetts. That is a long ways from Missouri. I don't know that I could afford your drone footage by the time you flew out here. But I guess if you want to fly out here and get some crane footage and put on your channel, you're more than welcome. Elite says it rides like a D8. Those Takeuchi track machines, they do ride nice. I mean, there are times that you'll feel your kidneys bounce around in your back. But J80 says tires easier to change than tracks. Actually, one of these days I need to show Elite my trick for that. I can change tracks on a skid loader. I can have a track off faster than you can have two wheels off of a rubber tired machine. I can take a track off of a track machine faster or as fast as taking two wheels off of a tired machine. Lakeside Ranch says you heard of Consigli Construction. I have not heard of them. But like J80 said, tires easier to change than tracks. Every track change video I've seen, I think Andrew Camerata did one. I think I pronounced that last name right. I'm not sure. Chris is on Let's Dig's done one. And it kind of makes me wish I had a track machine to my disposal so I could show people how to knock the tracks off in a hurry. JD says, I work for my dad's tire service. I can change tires pretty fast. Diamond Rio says, I'm pretty good at throwing tracks off in the rocks. Elite Earthworks is not a prissy cat. It doesn't have suspension. So here's my secret for changing tracks. We've got about 5 minutes left in this stream. And I called Brandon and told him about it after watching him. Elite says, oh, knocking them off in a hurry is easy. Putting them on in a hurry is not that hard either if you use a few tools. But step one is get the machine blocked up where your tracks are clear off the ground. And then you take the grease fitting out of the greaser so it can contract all the way, or out of the tensioner so it can contract all the way. And then take about a 16 to 20 inch long, about 4 or 5 inch wide piece of 1/8 inch flat steel, put it against the idler at the top to where it sits like your tracks have a flange in them that's like so that fits around the idler. It sits against that flange, and then you roll your tracks forward until it shoves the idler in, or the track tensioner in, and that piece of plate's holding the flanges up above the idler. And one swing with a 20-pound sledge, and it'll pile the track up next to it. And then putting them back on, you just do the same thing in reverse order, except for to put it back on, instead of hitting it with a sledgehammer, I use a ratchet strap and hook it to the track on the other side, crank it over, and then get it where the flanges are lined up with the idler, roll the piece of plate back out, and put the grease fitting back in, tension them up. Elite says, no, they're easy. I use a forklift. That does make a difference. Diamond Rio, I bought my mini. Both tracks were backwards. Happened to throw them not too long after, so it kind of worked out to put them back on the right way. Elite says he just pushes it in with a block of wood and a bucket. JD says Kubota tensions on hydraulic and don't collapse far enough to walk them on and walk them off. Alex says I need to get my toy. I'm not sure what TO89. It actually broke one of the hydraulic lines. I was removing snow last year. I have yet to see one, though, that I couldn't knock the tracks off and put them back on with a piece of 1/8 inch plate. All right, everybody. It is 5:58. Actually, my phone says it's 6 o'clock. I wanted to get this stream in and put an hour between this one and Brandon and Jason. The reason being is we share a lot of subscribers, and I want to give everybody an hour break to go do whatever they need to get done so they can be back to watch Jason and Brandon. So there's a link back up in comments Jason threw in for Brandon's channel. They will be on their live stream at 7 Central. I guess we determined that was 1,900 hours is what Jason works a lot worked out. So we got 40 people tuned in at 7 Central. Go over to Elite Earthworks LLC and watch Jason and Brandon. Let's see. JD says Kubota have to walk them up the sprocket with pry bars. That doesn't sound like fun. Sorry, dictation messed up. It's supposed to be 289. All Warner 5-hour Delta go the answer. Lakeside Ranch, Merry Christmas to you guys as well. Elite Earthwork says we will see everyone in a bit. Elite says, thanks, Jimmy. Merry Christmas. Hey, Merry Christmas to you too, Brandon, you and your family. Hope everybody has a fantastic new year. This is my last live stream of 2018, so you guys won't see me again till after the new year. But remember, keep in mind, sometime after the new year, we're going to be doing something a little different. It won't be on this channel, but it will be one related to with my brother and I, and we will be tearing stuff up, quite literally. So if you're into chaos, destruction, and equipment, we will have that covered. Let's see. So with that, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Again, happy, safe holidays. I appreciate everybody stopping in and you guys making this thing what it is. With that being said, To the Top Crane is out.